All right. All right, so thank you all for being here, for joining our new class services webinar series. We hope these meetings are educational and enjoyable. For those of you who don't recognize me, my name is Katie Huntington. I'm the 50-year affiliation and cadet engagement manager in alumni support engagement at your Association of Graduates. I am not a grad, that's why you don't see my year next to my name, but I am a local by marriage, and I am grateful to work in this space and with this community. This evening, your presenters will be my colleagues, Amy Plotkin, Class Support Coordinator and Class Ring Memorial Program Guru, and Desiree Gibby, who you all know, Class of 91, is our Memorial Articles and Research Manager. And Des has a special guest presenter who she will be introducing as well. Without further ado, I am going to share my screen and Amy is going to present for you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katie, for that introduction. Let's see. All right.
Is it full screen?
Yep, looks good. All right. Well, it is my honor to work with our ring donors. The Class Ring Memorial Program just celebrated its 25th annual ring melt ceremony in January. This means that each West Point ring since 2002 contains gold from previous generations of the long gray line. And these rings span from 1896 to 2006. And to date, a total of 968 rings have been donated to the program. Next slide. The ring melt ceremony is typically held early in the new year here at West Point. The ceremony is a beautiful tribute to our ring donors, and the gold from these class rings benefits the Cow class, who will receive their rings that summer. During the ceremony, family members or living donors have the opportunity to place their ring into the crucible. If there is no ring donor representation, we have West Point senior officers or current cadets place the ring into the crucible on their behalf. It is important to note that only West Point graduates or current cadets will place the ring in a family's absence. Next slide. The combined donated rings for that year are then melted down with the legacy gold from previous years. The legacy gold has traces of all rings going back to the very first ring melt. Once the gold is melted, we then scrape off shavings, and this becomes the new legacy gold. So for instance, the legacy gold right now has traces of gold from 968 class rings. And this year, to celebrate the 25th annual ring melt, we took a small portion of the legacy gold. We placed it in a locket, and that locket is now in space at the International Space Station with Colonel Anne McLean, a 2002 West Point graduate. She will return the legacy gold to us before the upcoming ring melt for the class of 2027. Next slide.
This program, 98. Frank took his whole ring up there and floated around for us. Just say.
Oh, an entire ring, you said, sir?
Frank Rubio, my classmate, took his whole ring up there, and Frank's the one that got stuck up there forever. But
oh my gosh.
Funny story. Sorry.
Thank you for sharing. This program is powerful. And the classes and the cadets see not only the tangible connection of gold, but they are also inspired by the lives of those who wore their rings. Meeting the families and living donors is extremely powerful and moving. We go to great lengths to pair our donor families with cadets that they have something in common with. For example, if they are from the same state, or they play the same team or club sport here, or they plan to branch the same. These cadets are a family's escort throughout the day of the ceremony. Next slide. And families take a lot of comfort in returning a loved one's ring to a place that formed them and meant so much to them. Meeting the cadets who will receive their rings in just a few short months is a powerful way to reinforce the connection of the long gray line. And next slide. And now we get into the nuts and bolts of a ring donation. The most important thing to highlight at this time is that our deadline to donate to the class of 2027 is quickly approaching. All 3 pieces must be received by September 1st. The first is the online donation form, which Katie will link in the chat for you. The second is the owner's class ring. We ask that you have the stone removed before sending it in, but if this is a challenge, we have a trusted jeweler who can remove the stone, which we would then return to you after the ring melt ceremony. The third piece is the memorial article or living biography, and is profoundly important as it highlights the lives and stories of those who have worn and donated their class rings. Memorial articles preserve the history of our incredible graduates and inspire our cadets and future officers. Before I open it up to questions, I'd like to acknowledge that this was a very high-level overview of the Class Ring Memorial Program. If you'd like for us to do a more comprehensive webinar for your class, please let us know by emailing classservices@wpaog.org. And next slide. I know that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you hear me? This is Bob Weiss from Class of 71.
Yes, sir.
I play golf with a guy who's Class of 84 from the Naval Academy. And I asked him if they do anything like this, and he said no. And he just thought it was one of the coolest ideas going. So congratulations on getting this to the 25th year.
Thank you. I think they're taking some tips and tricks from us. I think that they've started something, but on a smaller level. I think it's a growing program. So thank you.
Amy, we have a question in the chat. Is white gold eligible too?
That's a good question that I'm not sure I have been asked before. So I will get an answer for you. And when we do our wrap up and send out our email tomorrow, I can have an answer to that question for you.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions pertaining to the ring melt in particular, or the ring melt memorial program before we get into memorial articles?
I managed the social media for the class of 1980. If you could share blurbs that could be shared on social media to help get the word out that are authoritative and that I don't have to invent, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Sure, not a problem.
The last link I just put into the chat is the video from the 25th ring melt ceremony from last year. And there's some sound bites in there. I don't know, Amy, if you have quotes ready to send out, but maybe those from our president and CEO, from the SOUP. There's several quotes in there as well that you might find useful.
Mm-hmm. And we also have the quotes that were linked within the slide deck too, that we could use as well. Cadet quotes, and then also quotes from the families.
I got a comment here. I participated in it last year and donated my dad's ring. I can tell everyone that it is a very emotional event. There are some people that are teary-eyed when this happens, and it is it's a fantastic tribute for that. The cadet that was with me was a cadet from my dad's company, so that was another connection that it was able to make for it. And it's truly a remarkable program, and being that the Academy is the first organization or school to come up with a class ring, this kind of brings the whole program full around. And I ask people when I promote this program, I ask people, I says, do you know where your great-grandmother's wedding ring is? And the answer is typically no. And then I ask, where's your grandmother's wedding ring? And the answer is a lot of times no. So I said, so all these rings are just disappearing somewhere. What a great way to leave a lasting legacy to a graduate. So just my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your thoughts and for your donation. And we will move on to this.
All right. Thank you, Amy and Katie, and thank you to all of you that are here. I'm especially excited for this webinar because it combines two things that I'm very passionate about, the ring melt and memorial articles. For memorial articles, I want to continue General Cullum's vision of proving the enduring importance of the United States Military Academy by showcasing the remarkable lives of our graduates. To help us do that more effectively, our association's webpage includes helpful guidelines and tips for writing articles for our classmates and for ourselves. These resources are designed to help graduates articulate these stories and legacies while easing the burden on loved ones. First, I'd like to answer Kent's question. He had a question before the session about self-written articles. He asked, if a graduate writes their own memorial article, does the next of kin still have to sign off on it? And can they make edits? And the answer is yes and yes. The next of kin's approval is still required, and the next of kin can make edits. Most of the time, they only make minor changes. But having that self-written article makes the process significantly easier for families during a difficult time. Writing a memorial article can be intimidating. That's why I was so encouraged when Lieutenant Colonel retired Bob Weiss, class of 1971, professionally done, reached out with some fantastic ideas to make the process less daunting. Like many of us, Bob didn't major in English, but today he's an active writer on Yelp, Google Maps, and Nextdoor, and he uses Chat GPT to elevate his writing. He's here to share practical tips and encouragement so more of us can feel confident crafting these tributes ourselves. And if you liked this speech, I used Chat GPT to make it better, along with tips from Bob. And Chat GPT recommended if I wanted to add some humor, that I should add this quick story about Bob. When he first started using Chat GPT, he asked it to help him write a restaurant review. The review came out so polished and poetic that the restaurant owner assumed he was a professional food critic and offered him free dessert for life. Bob said yes, but only if it came with extra whipped cream. So if you ever need a recommendation and a sweet deal, Bob's your guy. Thank you so much, Bob, for being here and sharing your tips. We're really looking forward to learning from you, and the time is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This first slide up here, most of us have heard this quote a little differently, that don't let perfect be the enemy of good. The actual quote is, the best is the enemy of the good. And it was by Voltaire. And I bring that up because my class 71 is at the point where we're losing between 2 and 3 guys a month. And I think one of my classmates who actually manages the whole process, Tom Burrell, is on the call. And Tom has the horrible responsibility. I mean, it is an awful responsibility of making sure that all of these articles get written and that the right person is involved. And I mean, it's an amazingly difficult process. And I give him all the credit, and his predecessor, another one of my classmates, Johnny Brooks, who put together this amazing process to get it done. So as we go through, I'm going to give Desiree a lot of prompts because she did something that I think is really outstanding, not necessarily for the person in Tom's role to worry about, but I think it's something that we should send out to all of our classmates to say, hey, fill this out. When I was on the board of advisors for the AOG, we talked then about the process of having you write your own obituary effectively. So going back to the question that Amy answered earlier, or I guess Desiree did, that, you know, write it yourself. Who knows better of how you want to be remembered than you? And of course, you know, you can become the person that in your mind you have become. So, you know, you can do that. So Desiree, would you move on to the next one? So here are just two things. When I started playing with ChatGPT, and I just started really playing with it. I play golf at a club across the street, you know, it's really 298 yards from my front door to the front door of the club. It's for Scythe Country Club here in Winston-Salem. And this is the logo on the far left. It took me 12 seconds with ChatGPT. I said, design the back of a playing card using this logo. And boom, that green logo came up, the back of a playing card. And then I said, and this one was a little shorter, I said, reverse the colors. And then boom, this came up. And so this whole process from having a logo to having the backs of playing cards took about, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Why this is important, I played poker with a group of guys on Mondays and Fridays over there. And there are probably, I don't know, 40 of us playing. We play with 2 decks, so that's why we have the greens and the whites. There are probably, I don't know, 200 women that play bridge. And then there's another group of women that play something called Shanghai, which is a derivative of Gin Rummy. And so now the club is going to buy these cards. So I designed them. It took no time whatsoever. The picture below, I have a Australian Shepherd who you might be able to see back here in the corner over my left shoulder. That's her. My wife is still working full-time, thank God. And otherwise I couldn't live in the lifestyle that I've become accustomed. And she, when I say to my dog, her name's Luna, I said, Luna, go to your office. And she runs in and sits down with my wife. So I took a picture and I don't know why I did this. I think somebody had mentioned it. And I said, you know, and I got two computer E's. I said, please create an illustration of my pet in 2D animation. You don't need to talk like that, because, you know. And she's taking a nap in front of the fireplace, and she has this pillow that she likes. And this came out, and it might have been like 30 seconds later. So I play with it because I have a couple of grandchildren and my son-in-law who's a tech geek, and my other son-in-law who is a geek. And I just play with things, and I, you know, do stuff on it. And I learn as much by just having fun with it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Hang on, because I'm going to talk about memorial articles in a few seconds. Okay, Desiree. Next one. So these are more Desiree's slides. And do you want to talk about these, Desiree, quickly? There's the next 4 or 5.
Sure. So basically, we're going to put links to these in the chat, but we just want you to know that our website does have guidelines. And go ahead, Katie, to the next. And it has tips. And it has details that you can put in. So this one in particular is telling you what to put in your column file, but that's what the column file's purpose is to help write a memorial article. Go ahead, Katie, to the next one. And then we created a Zoho form that you can start to write your own memorial article and not be so intimidated by it, because you can add your memories. And a lot of people are finding that a little bit easier to do than writing a whole article. But now you can take those memories and plop them into, after Bob teaches us, and they can become an article. And Katie, you can just scroll through the next two. And back over to you, Bob.
So I wanted Desiree to talk about that, because when you look through that, it's really a great way to have your background ready for your classmate, your roommate, whoever might be writing your article. Or if you say, it's just too much work, I'm going to give you an example of what I did. And it really is pretty amazing what ChatGPT does. But on this, here are some ways to learn what to do with ChatGPT. You can start with their official resources, and it's on their website. Remember, ChatGPT is owned by OpenAI, so it's open software that anybody can get to. So they have some really good training things, good lessons, and it's easy to use. So that'd be the place where I would start. Then you can explore use cases. So the first place would be if you wanted to do something like for this card group that I play with, I was trying to write an app for my laptop to take over so that we could track who's losing the most money and who's winning the most money. And we only play for 10 cents a point, so it's not like big money, but it's bragging rights more than anything. So I looked at ChatGPT and I said, I want to write an app to track the winnings of this card game. And it walked me through how to write it. And it took me about 7 minutes to write an app, which if I had paid somebody to do, it would have been $13,000 or something like that. And, the time to get it done. So you can do just fun little things with it. If you have a car collection, for example, I don't have a collection, but I have an old car. I put in, a picture of my car, what I've done on it so far into ChatGPT, and it came back with, okay, here are the things you're going to be needing to do to get it to the next 20,000 miles, next 30,000. And then I said, well, I want to turn it over to my 2-year-old grandson. He said, okay, for the next 15 years, you're going to need to do this, and it's pretty cool. So you can have fun with it. And that's what I suggest everybody do. Don't look at a class or, a website to try to learn how to do things. Just have fun with it. But you can do the other things. Prompting techniques, I'm going to talk about in detail later on, because the prompting is crucial. And what I mentioned earlier of, you don't need to get into computerese. You write just the way you talk. Now, I remember my dad had an Army manual written in 1949, and it was on writing. And I remember the very first sentence out of this Army manual. It said, write the way you speak. And it used it as an example, and you guys have all probably used it. You guys and women have probably all used it, of per my phone con of. You wouldn't speak that way, so why would you write that way? And that was an example in this 1949 manual of, why would you do that? So and I'm going to show you some techniques on some charts later on. And as I said, experiment. Okay, next slide, please. There are some courses or tutorials. Be very careful of these courses and tutorials. There's one that you'll see all over the internet named Coursive, COURSIV. I made the mistake of signing up for it. This great $19 introduction for 30 days, 15 minutes a day of a course. Well, I didn't read the fine print because my eyes weren't good enough. But I just started noticing my bank statement every month was being hit by $39.99 by this company. and it's out of Crete. So, you know, be careful if you sign up for one of these things. I got it turned down or shut down. I got a refund, but it was not, you know, it's just something to be careful of when you sign up for these courses or tutorials. The courses and tutorials are really more for the young people who are going to want to get into programming and stuff. It's kind of the primer for that. So if you want to do it, by all means, go ahead and do it. But I don't think most of us need to. There are communities out there that are kind of fun to get into. Like I'm in the 3 different car communities, and we do stuff on ChatGPT. And then practice regularly. I'm always doing something with ChatGPT. As I mentioned, my friend and my classmate Tom Burrell, he sent me his bio or his memorial article. So I'm going to play with it and put it into ChatGPT and see what we come up with. Okay, next slide, please. Now, this is something that, you know, I found to be really fascinating was ChatGPT for research. And I used it for my best friend passed away of leukemia. He was a swimmer with me, great guy, never a guy that you would have thought that would have died from leukemia. But I used it to say, tell me about Warren Patrick Fligg, class of 1971, West Point. And honestly, it came up with hundreds of articles and sites for me to go to because after he retired from the Army, he worked for Hawaii Electric. He was an attorney, worked for Hawaii Electric, worked for a different branch of Hawaii Electric, and he had, you know, great things. Talked about his swimming career, talked about our water polo career. It was pretty amazing what ChatGPT had out there for Pat. So you have ChatGPT for research. You can use it for that. Most people don't, but you can. Now, I put this one article up here, and this is really fascinating. I was reading the Wall Street Journal one day, and it talked about this new Detachment 201. Now, I'm guessing that most of you haven't heard of Detachment 201. I had never heard of it. So I did a Google search, and it came up with, I don't know, 70 or 80 different articles that then had hyperlinks. And, you know, by the time I got through all of it, it was like an hour and 20 minutes later. I did a Safari search and about the same thing. I did a ChatGPT search, and the next 2 or 3 slides is what came up in about 12 seconds. And it was everything that I had gotten from Google. So if you so this is the beginning of what Detachment 201 is. They're giving lieutenant colonel and 05 and 06 commissions to guys who are working for Meta and for Apple and for these different the CTOs, the chief of marketing, all these things. So I'm not going to read it. You guys can read it on your own, but it's really pretty. It's a cool program, number one, but I'm glad I know something about it now. Okay, next slide, please. So there are the guys who were involved in it. You can see Palantir, Meta, OpenAI, that's the ChatGPT guys, Thinking Machines, formerly OpenAI. They get direct commissioning. They go to it's a 12-day charm school. I don't know if they ever have to actually put on a uniform. It's probably a lot like reserve physicians where they don't have to. They probably get credit for doing stuff at their office. But anyway, it's a pretty cool program where the Army can use these guys to help our process of learning how to use AI going forward. So are there any questions so far? I want to wait till the end for all the detailed questions, but I just want to see if there's anything so far. Okay, next slide. Bob St. Ange, are you still down in South Carolina? Yeah. He must be on mute. Okay, we'll talk later. All right, so go ahead into the next slide. So here's where I first started ChatGPT, and this is pretty amazing. So I started by, see this little blurb at the top. I said, write a memorial article for Colonel Robert D. Weiss. Bob graduated in 1971 and was commissioned in Medical Service Corps, do to. And I just stopped right there. I was medically unfit for combat arms. I have double vision. I made 06 finally because I was a augmentee to the Surgeon General's office because I was one of the few field MSCs. Most of the MSCs worked in hospitals. My brother, who was class of 62, and I were two of the guys who were in the field most of the time. So it came back and it said, sure, here's a draft of a memorial article for me. I'll start with what you provided and expand in a respectful, professional tone. You can fill in any missing details and let me know if you'd like to adjust the length. So I didn't put anything in, obviously, but it, here's what it did. And you guys can read through it as you go. But it was pretty amazing what it came back with. And it's obviously not 800 words or 500. I don't know how many words it was. I didn't really look at it. But it came down, it was very general terms, but quite frankly, was pretty good. I mean, if I saw that about myself, I'd say, wow, I'll go with that, Then it said, would you like to include any specific awards, units, deployments, or family acknowledgements? I can also tailor this for your military alumni publication, obituary, or memorial. And I thought about it and I thought, well, who's the audience for this? And the audience for this, I guess, is my classmates for the most part, and probably for younger grads. I don't think the guys who are older than me are going to care about me. They're not going to read what I did, but it's for my classmates, it's for my family, that kind of thing. So if you go to the next slide, I said, okay, write a memorial article for this. And here's a couple of things I did. I was an ambulance company commander for 2 years. I did Reforger. I was a hospital controller in Vicenza, Italy. I was an aide to the CG of Health Service to Command Europe, as well as he came back to the United States. So you'll read later on, it sounds like I was aide to two different generals. It was the same guy, but it was a 24-month time when I was the aide. He was my best man when we got married too. Then it says, about how I then went into the reserves. I was activated a couple of times. My wife, and then if you get down to the last paragraph, it talks about my family and the things that I've done at West Point. I was on the Association of Graduates. I was on the board of advisors when Bob St. Onge was the COM. I was on the investment committee. I was on the board of directors, past president of one of the West Point societies in Florida, and then I've been on our class executive committee. So I didn't put much in here. I just put a little here. And now it says, certainly, here's a respectful, heartfelt memorial article honoring Bob Weiss, blending his military. So you can see that I've kind of eased into this. And that's why I think that quote of the best can be the enemy of the good. If you try right from the beginning to write the perfect memorial article, it's going to take forever. And if you can go through this and write kind of outlines and work through it, and as Desiree said, I was by far not an English major. Stringing 4 sentences together was torture for me. Giving me a math problem was easy, but anything else. So you see what I've done. Okay, next slide, please. So it says, certainly, here's a revised. Okay, so it gives me a revised, and we'll go through it. I'm not going to go through much. So go on to the next slide, please. And talks about even in retirement, legacy, that kind of thing. All right. And then it says, would you like, so it keeps going back up one place. Okay, so it keeps asking you if you want to do more. And it says, would you like to include more information about the ladder assignments, awards, yada, yada. Okay, now go into the next one. So I took what I had written and I said, well, what should I put in here? Well, my wife, Lisa, who our anniversary is this Saturday, you know, God love her. She's been with me for a long time and she's still working, and thank God for that. We've got two great daughters. If you read down there to kind of the sixth line from the bottom, I talk about my son-in-laws. They're both losers. They're not really. I just put that in there to see what ChatGPT would do. And then the last line in here, and then I said, you know, we're all glad to say good riddance to this bastard. So I just wanted to see what it would do. So go on to the next slide. So it says, thank you for the rich. Okay, it gives, you know, so it's always prompting me and saying, yeah, well, you know, okay, this is pretty cool. And then this last one is really amazing. So I'll let you guys read through it later on, but it talks about the different positions I had that I thought were important. Not every one. I didn't put every assignment I ever had in, you know, I go to the next slide. I talked about my civilian career. I was the managing partner of a Wall Street firm, oddly enough, named Weiss Peck and Greer. I was a partner. I wasn't the named partner. Stephen Weiss founded it, but you know, it was pretty cool. And then, so where I talked about my two sons-in-law, who I both thought were losers, they're not. Jake's a good guy. Charlie is a loser, but no. It says, well, Bob would want to mention they never quite lived up to his standards, but he tolerated them with affection. Well, my wife thought that was not probably a good thing to do. So it says, let me know if you'd like to make tweaks. So the last one, they make the tweaks. So go on to the next slide.
See, Jim's got his hand up, Bob. Do you mind answering a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, I think that was by accident. Sorry.
Oh, all right. So it goes down, and then it says, if you look at it, you know, again, all it really does is it changes the word. It says, I think that I tolerated my sons-in-law. Maybe it's on the next page. Yeah, there it is. His sons-in-law, Jake and Charlie, were part of the family he cherished deeply. I thought that was very well done. So, you know, and it talked that I have a big personality, which I think Tom Burrell would probably tell you that's true. So next slide then. So I'm going to stop here for a second. We've got about 20 minutes. I want to go through these next slides, but since I've just spent some time on these iterations that were really very simple, and from the time I submitted one of those iterations to the time something came out was probably 2 or 3 minutes. And I could never write like that. I mean, you know, that just is so much better. Do we have any questions whatsoever at this point? Okay. So now, as we talk about how you use ChatGPT and how you should do it, so there are different prompts. And I think this one's good, and I'm going to go through the next one because if you start using it, you're going to hear different things. So one is role, context, task, format, and style. So the role, act as a LinkedIn ghostwriter and social media marketing expert. Okay, so you're telling ChatGPT what you want it to do. So you say, write a memorial article for me for the West Point TAPS. And then the context. I run a social media agency to help startup founders grow their LinkedIn presence. I was in the Army. I went to West Point. I spent, 25 years in the Army. I then had a second career and did this, or I spent my 5 years on active duty, went into the reserves and had a civilian career, whatever it happens to be. Task, write the article that you want. The format, now this is where you get back to Desiree's charts. Start with the past, scrolling, and go forward, and then the style. So you can do it memorial, obituary, fun, whatever it happens to be. So I think this is important as you go through these things. You don't want to talk like you think that a programmer would talk, because that's what it's not looking for that. It's looking for you to write something of just the way that you would speak. Okay, next slide, please. So terribly complex slide here, but the key is right in the middle. It says the prompt framework. If you see the different frameworks, these are different things that people have coined. Taco, PAV, that type of thing. You should know kind of, look at those, because one of those may, be something that you like, and that makes you think about how you should put your request into words. So I think that's the key thing here. But there are all sorts of resources and things that you can go to on the internet, or if you just go into ChatGPT and says, say, give me all the AI resources that you want, or you can, using AI for the term. Okay, next slide, please. And here are some of the slide prompts that, if you want to look at some of the things that others have used. And then finally, next slide. You're welcome to call me. Desiree has my numbers. You can text me, you can email me. My email address is very simple. It's usma71@gmail.com. My phone number is 813. I moved up to Winston-Salem from Tampa, Florida. 892-7301. 813-892-7301. So you can call, text, or email me if you have any questions whatsoever. So it looks like we have about 15 minutes left. We can certainly send many more things to you. I have lots out there. I'm sure there are probably some of you. Jim Wilson's picture just came blasting up on my big screen here. So hi, Jim, how are you? I'm sure Jim, class of 04, would probably know more about ChatGPT or AI than I do. But it's a really powerful tool for these memorial articles. It really, really is helpful. Everything I showed you earlier, you can do, and you can do very quickly. And I think as you read through, those things, most people and most people's families would be happy with the outcomes and the printouts there. All right, so now if there's any questions whatsoever, I've been talking for about half an hour, so.
There's a few in the chat here, Bob, and I don't know if you want to field them or in conjunction with Desiree, but I'll read them out. So the first one is, if a grad fills out the vitals online, does it stay in the system for use later? That might be to you. If the grad fills out vitals online, will it stay in the system for later?
Yes, it will. And when you submit your form, it'll email you and me, and it'll have a link at the bottom that says, click on this link to add any updates, make any changes. So when you click on it, it'll be just the way you left it when you submitted it. And then you can make changes, and then you hit update, and it will send you a new PDF, and you'll be able to see what it's kind of the benefit of having this Zoho for, and that you'll be able to see what you have already given us. A lot of
Katie?
times, many of you write us and say, what did I send you? You know, I don't remember what I sent you. You know, you may have sent me something, you know, sent Marilee something like 10 years ago. You know, who would remember that? So this is kind of an advantage.
And Katie, let me pick up on that point too. What you could do, or what one could do, would be just copy that data and put it into ChatGPT. You wouldn't have to rewrite it. You just say, turn this into a memorial article for me. So that's the advantage of having that out there.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jim Weiss and Wilson, and as you predicted, Bob, he has a resource in the chat here. eyearbook.com says that they have several yearbooks from West Point and the Naval Academy. That's been a very good resource for him on several occasions. Unfortunately, they don't have his West Point class uploaded. So does any chance AOG will be scanning and digitizing howitzers to make them available online to help with this sort of process?
Not yet, but that might be something in the future. The USMA archive, the digital archive, has scanned up through like 50, I think. Obviously, that doesn't get anywhere near your class. But they are working. So the USMA archive is another source, and they are scanning things as we speak as well. You can come visit us. We have them. You know, you can come take pictures of the howitzers. We have people do that all the time here in my office. They're right over there, all the howitzers. And you can ask me too if there's something you want me. If you're writing an article and you're like, can you take a picture of the football team's pages because this guy was on the football team? I can certainly scan those for you. I would be happy to help.
Luna just made a personal appearance.
Hi, Luna. Thank you, Des. Mo has also dropped a resource in the chat, a possibly useful article with prompts to help humanize AI writing. So thank you for that, Mo. The email and phone number there are the ones that Bob provided for us. And then Frank Monaco says he uses AI for class Zoom meetings. They provide great summaries, including who said what. And we've asked for all published memorial articles to be available online. And I think they are, right, Des? Are all of them online?
Well, what he wants is to have more of the PDFs available through Sallyport.
Got it.
And we're still working on trying to figure out how to make that happen. And we don't have PDFs for every single year of TAPS, especially when they were in the Assembly magazine. So remember when they were in Assembly, it was a totally different format, and they didn't save them as a PDF. They saved the entire Assembly as a PDF. Yeah.
Thank you for your help so far on that. That's right.
You bet. We'll keep working on improving it for you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that's everything in the chat. Any questions, comments, conversation that has come to your mind that anyone want to speak out? Go ahead, Ralph.
Okay, I teach technology to judges and lawyers, so AI is right, at the top of what we're doing right now, and so I use ChatGPT all the time, and I have experience doing a memorial article with ChatGPT, so I'll explain how I did it. Last year, I wrote an article for one of our classmates, and there were two other people working on it, and they sent me their suggestions, and we also got suggestions from classmates, and I loaded all of that and all of the information from AOG, that are the requirements for it, the suggestions and things like that, into ChatGPT, but I didn't have ChatGPT write the article for me. The reason I didn't is because I wanted it to be in our voice, not in ChatGPT's voice. And so I wrote an article that I thought was pretty good, and I gave it to ChatGPT, and with all of that other information, and then ask ChatGPT to critique what I had done. And by doing it that way, ChatGPT came up with some great ideas, because none of us do this routinely. We don't write obituaries routinely. So it had some very sensitive things. So you may not want to say this because, and you may want to do this because, and so it was very good in the suggestions. You can ask it to help you if you're having trouble wording something and you want it to sound better. You can ask it for a different tone, and or if the words just aren't coming to you, you can ask for that kind of help too, and it'll give you that. But to me, these things are better if they're in your own voice rather than something that's said. And I thought about the idea of maybe getting some other articles that I thought were good and putting them in, but I'm concerned about that because it may become too formulaic, you know. So I just think personally the best way to use ChatGPT, and this is what I tell my judges and lawyers too, is to write it yourself and get it to be your co-intelligence, to pick up on things you may have forgotten, something you may not have thought of, something that may sound a little better a different way, rather than having it write it for you. It's, you know, and all, you know, unfortunately, a lot of lawyers are using it just to have it write their briefs for them, and they're ending up with mistakes, and they're ending up with things that aren't good as a result of it. But that's not as much of a problem here, although hallucinations can be a problem. I mean, it might hallucinate something that the person didn't actually do. So, I mean, asking it to take something off the internet and write it for you, I don't think is the best idea. I think it's better to, you know, to do what the family wants, what your classmates can contribute, and then using the ChatGPT to polish it rather than doing it yourself. I mean, that's just my suggestion on a way to use it.
See, and I'll take the opposite approach to that and say, let them come up with it, then let everybody make their changes to it. So, because you can spend all that time trying to get to a point where you're happy with it, and then let them make, you know, additions to it. Okay, you know, I guess these things are like noses. Everybody has one. You know, you can come up with your own ideas. I think everybody use it the way you want. It's just a tool. If I said that, you know, go with what ChatGPT writes, we're getting a lightning warning down here.
Oh.
I didn't mean to say that, but yeah, it's a tool, and use it as you want. The one thing that you do have to be careful with any AI product is that once you write something or get them to write it and then review it and make your changes, save it and move it out of ChatGPT or any AI product. I don't care if it's Perplexity or anything, because then if you leave it out there, what it does start doing, I think was what Ralph alluded to, was it does start to use the previous format and the previous intonations and language in the next one. And then on the third one, it'll use the previous two. So it's, as you read through some of these things, they recommend save it, delete it from ChatGPT, save it to a PDF, or save it to your Word document.
Thank you both.
We don't put sensitive information into ChatGPT because there are some concerns about it trains on it. If you don't have the right version of it, it may be training on the data set. You know, with lawyers, that's a big no-no. So we're careful about that. But you might want to do that too. You can do this without putting something sensitive in there. Most things that would go in an obituary are going to be public record anyway, but you know, some things you might just be very careful about.
All
Absolutely.
very good points. All very good points. And I think both Bob and Ralph alluded to that. You know, Bob and I have talked about it before, that there are sometimes, well, you have to check it. You have to fact check it. Like, for instance, that story I told about Bob. Did that ever happen to you, Bob?
Well, it actually, something like that happened up at Legal Seafood when we were up at Legals. So yeah, something very similar.
But it didn't involve desserts, so ChatGPT lied. But yeah, you definitely have to fact check it. And I love though how, you know, sometimes you remember the thesaurus that you would pull out to get synonyms for words because you didn't want to keep using the same word over and over and over again. ChatGPT is really good at varying the vocabulary, and I really like that.
Yep.
I'm going to squeeze in 2 quick questions from the chat here. Des, on the AOG site, it allows you to upload your DD214 awards, etc. Is the online form secure?
Yes, it is. It's encrypted to HEPA standards, so that's kind of comforting to me and hopefully to you as well. I've made it encrypted, and that's better than emailing it. If you email it to me, you know, it could be it's great to have it encrypted.
Thank you. And then how do you find the link to be able to see the self-written memorial article you submitted?
So when you save it, when you first start the form, there's the original form that you click on from our web page. And then when you save, it'll ask you for an email address. Well, you should have put your email address in there and it should pop up. If you didn't, it'll ask you for one. And it emails you a link so that you can go back and keep writing. And then, like I said, once you submit it, it also sends you your own private link. So just keep that to yourself. It's your private information. Don't share that link with other people. And then you can click on it and add to it.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are at 7:59. I think we did pretty well on timing. You should be receiving an email in the morning from that class-services@wpaog.org. It will have this recording linked as well as all the resources we discussed and the deck that we went over. Does anyone have any last words, last questions? And you can always email or call us if any of your questions didn't get answered as well. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Bob, thank you so much for your presentation and then the time you put in to getting that ready for us. Thank you all for your thoughts and ideas and for being here, supporting your classes in the way that you do. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Thank you.
So much, Bob. Thank you. Sure appreciate it. You
Thank
taught
you,
me a lot.
Desiree. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.